Welcome to Rising Woman Leaders. I'm your host, Meredith Ram, and I believe the time has come for women to share their gifts, their voice, and their stories. I love seeing women spiritually and financially empowered, thriving in their life's work, and doing what they love every day. I've gathered a community of women living their dreams to tell us their stories and inspire us to step into more courage, self-love, and feminine leadership. If you like this podcast, use the hashtag Rising Woman Leaders, follow me on Instagram at Meredith Ram, and sign up for email updates at risingwomanleaders.com to get all the new and inspiring content. Now get cozy with a journal and a cup of tea. I hope you enjoy today's show. I'm here today with Cait Scudder. She is a yoga teacher, a lit up transformation catalyst that empowers women to uncover, embrace, and embody the most dazzling version of themselves. She is a radiant living coach, writer, speaker, and yoga meditation teacher living in Bali, and is also founder of the Radiant Living School. Cait holds programs, workshops, and retreats around the globe for soul-centered women on a mission to shine. Thank you for being here, Cait.
It's my pleasure, Meredith. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we got to just have a few minutes before this recording, and it already felt just like there's so much to talk about, so much to share. You're living in Bali now. It's such a beautiful place to be. And I wonder what that journey was for you moving there, deciding to live there. Love to start with that.
Yeah, beautiful. Happy to start there. Wow. Bali has been my greatest teacher, I think, on this journey so far. And the call to come to her was really unexpected and serendipitous, and just was my first, I don't know about my first actually, but my biggest initiation into just truly letting my intuition guide me. So I came to Bali for the first time about 2.5 years ago. So before that, I was working as a teacher in an alternative high school, middle schools, teaching Spanish and teaching yoga, and living in Western Massachusetts at that time. And I was loving some aspects of that work, really loving teaching, but knew that I was being called to something bigger. I was being called to something I didn't really understand yet. And so I made the decision to leave that job and really open up a void in my life, which was a huge step because I had been moving in a very, quite rapidly in an upward trajectory, really since leaving college. And so that opened up a lot of space for me to just really listen in to the universe. And I'd saved up some money and had the thought to go traveling in South America. And I knew I was going to be traveling around March of that year. That was 2015. And I kept having all these blockages when it came to planning the South America trip. Like I would, Google the Patagonia and get all excited. But when it came to actually following through, there was no flow. And so that was really interesting to experience. So I was just like, rather than push through it, I was just, okay, like there's something here. So I'm just going to keep doing my life and wait for the right thing. And then one of my sisters that I did my 200-hour yoga teacher training with at Kripalu sent me a message about this women's leadership yoga meditation 500-hour advanced training in Bali called Shakti Initiation. And when she sent it, it just felt like I was getting a letter straight from the universe. It was just like, vroom, like real resonance. And it surprised me because Bali was so foreign to me at that stage. I'd been living in New England most of my life. I'd spent a couple years living in Costa Rica before that, but Bali felt so far away and so unexpected. And I didn't really know a lot about it other than having read Eat, Pray, Love, and that's the love spot. I didn't know much about the culture. I didn't know the beauty that was waiting for me when I arrived. And so I came for the yoga, I came for the immersion, and that was a 30-day immersion up in the mountains near Batu Karu, quite, tucked into just the pure magic of the Bali natural landscape and the magic of sisterhood, and the alchemy that took place over that month was just like a lifetime of growth and really synthesizing the journey that had been brewing within me and spiraling through my life in the past several years. And I just felt when that training ended, I had I think it was like 6 or 7 weeks open to travel, and had no plan, but loosely the idea to go to Vietnam and Thailand. I did have a flight actually to Thailand, but I was really just allowing myself to be in flow, which was exactly the medicine that I needed, coming from, holding so much space for, linear time to dictate my life. I was really gifted myself the space to just trust the flow. And yeah, it's just so magical how these things happen. I came for the yoga, came for the really deep dive connection with soul, with self, with source, and with sisters. And 3 days after the training ended, the last thing from my mind was meeting a beloved, or looking for that at all. My energy was really just like becoming in full, my intention was being in full resonance as the truest version of myself. And spirit's like, yep, okay, now you're ready. And 3 days later, it's so true. It is so true. And like truly least expecting of it. And I have to say our story is really quite magical. So yeah, 3 days later, I met my partner, who I'm now marrying in less than a month, on the beach down at Bingen Beach. A couple of my sisters had arranged for us to stay down there. I didn't even know the name of my beach, the beach. I was just like, yep, here's some money for the room. I'm happy to go to the beach. Don't really know where it is. And it was really just so divine. And I look back, Meredith, and I think, like how if one thing had been slightly different, my life would be so different right now. If the friend that I was supposed to go down to the beach with had decided that she wanted to come down instead of taking care of herself and doing a massage and just staying up there, which led me to wander down alone and do some yoga and meditate and be walking back to be just in the state of presence I was in, to respond to his hello, to sit down with Toby and his friends and watch the sun go down and play music. Like if things hadn't happened exactly as they did, which is exactly how they were meant to, then I sometimes catch myself like looking out from my balcony at all of these palm trees in my new house living here and think, wow, what a gift. Like, and this all happened by just listening to that yes, listening to a yes I didn't understand.
Yeah, I find so much those moments start happening when we're really in tune with our bodies. And like you said, you're just done this month-long immersion, and we're doing yoga and we're doing your meditation and in your state of presence. And it's like life just kind of magically unfolds in that state.
It's so true. It's so true. And, it's interesting, like really the initiation of the Shakti initiation, it was really what you just said is such a beautiful reflection. And I feel like it's that state of presence, that state of not needing to grasp, not needing to protect, just being fully anchored and centered in this really soft and open and clear way that allows life to just happen. And it's this beautiful, it is an unfolding, and it's as magical to speak about as it is to really feel, like to feel what happens and what transpires energetically from operating from that place.
Beautiful. And I know so much of your work and the energy behind your work is like this radiance and glowing. And I felt it when I was looking through your website and just learning about you online. But I imagine that, you weren't always that way. And I'm curious about the journey to get there. And what was life like before? And what were some turning points for you? And what would you attribute to the energy that you are holding now?
Thank you for that question. I think this is really, really important. Yeah, because you're right. It has not always been this way, and it's so important to honor that journey. So yeah, let me just paint a picture. So I was living in Western Massachusetts. I think I already said that, in the United States. And life before, the energy of life before was very, very, like, I want to say very linear, like very ambitious with an edge. I went, my life, I've always felt really moved, and this is a word to me that's, really snuggling close to radiance, is grace. And I've felt that quality in my life, in the presence and in the field of my life, really from a very young age. And I also felt very strongly come in when I was in college. I went to Amherst College for undergrad, and then right after finishing college, went right into my master's program in teaching. And so it was a very, very ambitious environment, in a very linear sort of a way. It was, an amazing education in some ways, and I was very blessed to have incredible sisters that I connected deeply with there. And yet it was very much a development of, like, I know the listeners can't see my hand gestures, but like of the square foot around my head, it's like very a mental sphere and not an embodied sphere. And I had a lot of anxiety. And a perfectionism that was really, like, exhausting. The need to craft the perfect way to say XYZ or to write XYZ. I don't want to just take 4 classes. I want to take 6 classes and do all of these things in a real overextension. And I was really unaware of the energy of what I was giving and what I was allowing myself to receive and rest. Like, that was just not in my framework at all. So I felt a lot of anxiety. I felt a lot of fatigue. And yet I felt really uncomfortable with showing that vulnerability, asking for what I needed, taking the pressure off. Like, I was very much, I think this was part conditioning and also part, something that I hadn't resolved yet within myself, which was, it's okay to take space. It's okay to replenish. It's okay to exist more in the physical body, get in touch with what the intelligence of the rest of this vessel and not just the mind. And when I was in graduate school, I had a little bit of a breakdown because I was just so fatigued and stretched super, super thin. I was struggling with an eating disorder at that time and felt like, I was bulimic for probably, 5 years, struggled with in college. That's really how my anxiety manifested. It was like, and it's really been such a healing and beautiful journey for me. And I look back on that time and I see, like, the wounding of needing to get out, needing to speak my truth and having space and time for me, but that wasn't coming out. And so my body knew, okay, something needs to come out. And it manifested in this really, really self-destructive and really harmful way. And when I really started going to my body as the source of the healing, and like that was the breaking point for me in graduate school, when I had taken on, you know, literally like double the course load and double the teaching responsibilities and workload, I realized, okay, I'm not going to be able to hold space or teach anyone anything if I'm not embodying the radical self-love that I need to. And so that was my kind of dark night of the soul initiation, and a real, like the firm catalyst to open into this new way of radical self-care, this new way of getting into my body as the keeper of my deepest intelligence, and the deepest intelligence all around wanting to live through me. And so I really began to deepen my yoga and meditation practice at that stage. That was back in 2011, 2012. I completed, and that really just turned my life in the direction of balance and integration and true embodiment. And that led me to Kripalu in 2013 to pursue my yoga teacher training, which was an amazing initiation in and of itself. I see all of these trajectories, you know, as like just this spiral that has unfurled in my life, from going through the muck to really beginning the rise. And so Kripalu was a huge part of that upward spiral, which is something that I talk about a lot in my work. And it's been just the trajectory of my life, from going from that real downward place to really rising into what feels nurturing, supportive, yes, life affirming, all of these things. So it has been a real journey for me. And I think that the word radiance resonates so deeply for me, is because, in that state when I was really turned in on myself, I was really just so cut off from the wisdom inside of me and the love all around me. It was so isolating, and it felt so lonely, and it felt so hard to be in touch with my power in a way that wasn't coming at power from a very like sharp and hard way, like a power that was a glow. And that is what I feel so deeply now, is like a resonance that glows from like that still small flame within to this just, magnified, like it's like a rising sun. That's the quality of radiance that I feel is governing my life now, is guiding my life, is leading my life. And it came from really starting to find that inside of my own center, and then build a repertoire of environments, of practices, of really a devoted path that nurtured that flame to its full capacity.
Wow. Yeah, I think of this in terms of building a business, that there's only so much we can do in those like linear structures. And if you do everything right, per se, I feel like there's just something missing unless you have the inner magnetism, the inner being, the presence, something that's just going to energetically attract the right people to find you. And I think about that sometimes with women I work with who might be a little bit more, and they're like, okay, well, I just need to do this, and then I need to do this, and I need to do this, and it'll all work. And like, and I'm like, okay, like, let's take a moment to pause, and how does that feel for you? And like, where is your heart right now? And you really nurture yourself, nourish yourself into people just wanting to be around you or wanting to learn from you.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, I resonate so deeply with that. And that's like one of my little mantras for the women that I work with as well, is like, what you embody, you attract. What you embody, you attract. And this is such a huge paradigm shift, like from going from that, mental checklist of, all right, I'm doing all the right things, I'm doing all the right steps, I'm going about this in the right fashion. And there's been no, in a lot of these cases, and in the world at large, there isn't a lot of emphasis or kind of re-patterning of how are you embodying, how are you feeling, how are you wanting to feel, and how is that affecting the way that all of those items on the checklist are going to flow. And it's that missing Shakti element, it's that missing divine feminine embodiment that really, that's the secret sauce, that's the magic.
Yeah. More and more I just feel like that is the truth, and it's beautiful. I'm so glad that people are getting to hear it, again, as a reminder.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that this is coming up. I just had a call with one of my coaching clients yesterday, and she's this beautiful woman, incredibly talented at her work, and holds this space of real, calm. And she helps people transform their physical spaces, women particularly, to get to that state of peace and tranquility and calm. And I see her really embodying that essence, like fully now, and the responses that she's getting. And we were just talking about this yesterday, of like, wow, like I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that was making a difference. And it's like, oh, that energy is the thing that people want to bring into their hearts, their homes, and their lives. That energy is the thing that attracts. And, yes, the sales funnel is great, but without the soul, what is it really doing?
Right. So true. Well, I wanted to ask you about what now that you're in this new state of being, when those critical voices or just fears or things that come up, self-doubts, how do you hold yourself through them? How do you treat yourself now? What do you do in those times?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question. I'm really happy to speak into that. I take taking care of my little girl like the most important job. Like, to me, I'm already a mother in that sense, like I feel, when I feel that worry, or that, I find myself going into overdrive, or stressing about, a number of things that I have to do, or getting into that energy. My immediate response now is, sweetie, what's going on? Sweetie, what's going on? How are you feeling? What's really going on? And really just like I would with, it's really like being the mother to my own soul, and recognizing now that there's an intelligence in that overwhelm. There's a message. There's something looking for love. There's something that's, some part of my needs aren't being met. Some part of my energy is feeling drained or depleted. And I am the first and foremost, caretaker of when that energy is out of balance. And so I tune in with myself, and that may be, going on my balcony, getting my soft sheepy, getting a cup of tea, and just sitting with myself, one hand on my heart, one hand on my belly, just taking some deep breaths, and feeling into. And, I don't say out loud, but sometimes I do, like, what do you need? What do you need? What's really going on? And just really I've learned to really just drop in with myself at that deep, deep level and to turn out the external noise. Whereas before, the old paradigm was, do even more to kind of drain the voice out. Now it's like, oh, okay, the other stuff has to wait because this is really a priority. She has something to say. And so really giving myself that time and making it feel really nourishing for myself. So I really like to work with essential oils and rose water, and even if it's just a cup of warm water with lemon. If I'm really feeling like I've taken on an energy that needs to clear my system, I'll use sage. But I'm really, it feels really important to me in my practice now to ground some of that, going into myself and checking in with myself to something physical, to something that can cleanse my energy field. And that every time I do that, I feel like, I'm taking such good care of myself, and it feels so yummy. And that part of me that was feeling like, she wasn't getting enough love, or I haven't been, taking that time for myself feels really replenished and recharged when I do that.
Wow. I love that. It's so simple.
Yeah, that's it. It is really simple. Space, breath, warmth, nourishment. That's it.
I wanted to ask you about courage and believing in ourselves. And I'm curious about when you reach an edge of like, oh, this is something I haven't done before, or this is kind of scary, or what do you do in those times? And like, how do you take that step into, okay, I got this, or like, I can do this, believe in myself?
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. My barometer for showing up in my courage is like coming back to my true north. And this is a phrase I use a lot in the work that I do, in the coaching method that I guide women through, and the structure of my courses is like that true north being, who am I? How do I want to be in this world? How do I want to feel in this world? How do I want to show up in this world? And that core desire of that state, and that core knowing of that essence of who I am. It's like it's my truth place. And so when I come up against an edge that feels, I'm often aware, okay, some part of my ego is going to die here. Some part of I'm feeling uncomfortable. And of course, using discernment, I don't think that, throwing yourself off a 20-foot cliff is necessarily courageous. It's like, okay, is it the right thing? Is it not? But I've been able to really fine tune that in myself by tuning in to, is this true? Does this resonate with my deepest truth? Does this resonate what I know and feel to be true in my body? Even if it feels, and that truth can coexist with it feeling uncomfortable. Absolutely. But it can't it can't coexist with non-action. Like, if there is an edge and my truth knows the answer is either to act one way or act another, to either speak or not speak, I just allow that truth to be the guide. And like we were describing before, like magnetic energy versus like a kick in the pants kind of moving towards something, I really it's almost like slipping into courage, like trusting that I'm being drawn to voice this truth, to speak this part of my story, to make this connection with someone I've never spoken with, to do this thing, because it's actually the intelligence of my deeper truth that's pulling me towards that. So in a way, it's almost like using the grace of the universe to guide that courage. But the boldness is in learning to fiercely devote and has been for me, to fiercely devote myself to, I will align to that highest truth.
Yeah, that is courageous to be like, okay, if my inner guidance is telling me this is where I need to go, even if it feels scary, I'm going to trust in that.
That's it. And that's it. And there's a real, I want to say like an emboldening or like a gifting into presence that comes from acting in that way, because it's like, all right, I'm here on a divine mission. I don't know what it is, but it is me. And it's also, I'm being led by a greater force. And I've really come to see the miracle of living life in that way, because it enables so much possibility, so much connection to happen, because it really clears the field from, showing up from a fear state, which just always gets me in my own way. If I'm able to show up in that courage with the trust of, I am being led here and I am so fiercely devoted. And I really like to use that distinction of like commitment, like I'm going to the gym for 30 days, like, angular commitment versus this just as powerful, fierce devotion. And that's the quality that I feel is the fuel for courage as I see it.
It's beautiful. I wanted to ask you too about your engagement and your plan to get married. I've been on a similar journey, and I wonder of what has come up for you around just like in your partnership and in yourself, of like being witnessed on this new level and having this kind of rite of passage about to happen, the ceremony, calling together friends, family, like all of the, it's a huge initiation, I see, in a lot of ways. And I think as spiritual beings, it's definitely, we can look at it that way, and it's like you're passing through a threshold. So I wonder if you could speak to that and just what this journey has been like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. It's been so big and so beautiful and so humbling, and at times messy and just full, like really, really full. It has been one of the biggest initiations of my life. And, this relationship, our coming together, and just our growth on this path. And it's so incredible to be witnessed, and to be witnessed in an evolving, ever-changing, ever-growing state of unfolding, and to feel the yes that has, that is like a deep soul yes, that is the tether through all of those transformations. And because I look back and I am not the same woman that I was 2 and 8 months, whatever it is, ago that I met Toby. I am a totally different woman, and I'm the same, essence in some ways, but like the refinement that has happened, the amount of clearing away the ways, it's like that Rumi quote, removing the barriers to love. After finding my soulmate, and that was another, I spoke to our initial meeting, but that was another true, just divine gift, really. There's no other way to say it. Like just finding one another and knowing from the very beginning that there was something profoundly special about this being. And I have to tell you this little story. So on the very first night we met down on the beach, ended up going to the same restaurant for dinner. I was with my sisters, and Toby was with his brother and sister-in-law, who were in Bali, having just gotten married. And Toby was just back in Bali one day from Australia, from his brother's wedding. And in any event, I ended up staying, and we ended up dancing and having a beautiful night, and went down to the beach and went swimming in the ocean. And it was, he was showing me the Southern Cross up in the sky, and it was like out of a movie, but it was so real. And when we got out of the water, we were looking at each other, and I found myself saying, like, I said this sentence that just came through me. And after I said it, I kind of like blinked, and I looked at him, and I just was like, I have no idea where that came from. I just needed to say that. And that was the first time in my life, actually, that happened, just fully channeling a sentence to another being. And I said to him, if I really let you see me, and you really let me see you, something magical could happen here. And I just got chills over my whole body speaking that. And I did when I said it, and I just thought, like, well, that's a bit of an intense thing to say, like my mind right after, like, first meeting somebody. Geez, Cait. But it was just like truth speaking through me, and some part of our souls just like reconnected. And we had like a very blissful first 4 or 5 months. We spent, a month together in Bali, and then went to Australia, met his family. It all happened very quickly. And then I left left Australia and was working in Costa Rica, then went to Spain for some work. And Toby came to meet me in Spain once I had finished. And we became engaged very quickly. And then we went to Greece, to the Greek islands on honeymoon. And it was just this very like super honeymoony phase, super elated, joyful, gorgeous, like full blast, heart open. And then we went to New England for about 4.5 months. And I had been living there for the past 7 years. And that was where the real cleansing started to happen, because we were, for the first time, really grounded in one space for, nearly 5 months. And all of my old, rhythms and routines that I had been used to navigating by myself, I was now sharing with this other being. And that was a really, it was a difficult time in a lot of ways. It enabled both of us to see, so much of our triggers, so much of our own, well, I'll speak for myself. It really enabled me to see the areas in which I was looking to him to feel like wanting connection with him before connecting in with myself. And I feel like I would really say like the first year where we were together was really like the burning away of any like codependency, any, way of putting the responsibility of self-care outside of myself in relationship. And that was a really big activation, and a really, I feel like it, like the first little bit was like bliss. The middle, next bit was very much like very Kali energy, just like burning away the stuff that wasn't serving and that had no place in stepping into a true divine union. And since we moved to Bali together in December of 2015, and that definitely still, just coming into a deeper resonance and connection and real anchoring in with self to meet each other from this place of true interdependence and true spaciousness to behold one another in our strength, to behold one another as, and that word I think is so key and is so present in our relationship now is there's this real beholding, like this real witnessing of the divine being that we each are and in one another. And also refinement in like when arguments come up. Like before, it used to piss me off so much when we would have a misunderstanding and we couldn't figure it out right away. Like I would really, really push and want the resolution right away. And there's just been it's like a true grace has come in, and it hasn't come in because it's been like rainbows and unicorns and perfect right from the get-go. It's come in because, we've gone through the other way of doing it the hard way. And we realized, okay, that doesn't feel good. Like if we really wanted to, we could choose that path, but neither of us want that. Both of us want harmony, peace, expansion, deep connection, soul level support, and just full heart wide open love. And so yeah, just refinement in when there are hard moments of allowing there to be space, taking the time to drop into center, coming in from that space. And now it's actually like, it feels so amazing to resolve those little, hiccups, because it's like, it can feel graceful. It can feel beautiful. It can open a pathway to really understand and drop into what you were feeling and what you were experiencing, to drop into sharing my own vulnerability, not needing to react from anger or protection in order to be heard. Like that paradigm is over. I can speak to you from my rawness, my truth, my authenticity, my vulnerability. And to be seen and witnessed in that place is just like, wow, it's so sexy, and it's so gorgeous, and it's so, inviting. Like there's just a real closeness, that an intimacy that can come from operating in that space. And so journeying together towards our wedding, which is in less than a month now, has been just a true, again, it's a very similar thing that I was describing, like having a true north of what is that truth place, what is the core desire of, both that I desire and that we desire for our union, but that's also desiring us, like that life of full empowerment, full expansion, full grace and harmony, skillfulness in communicating, deep listening, like that desires us as much as we desire it. So we've been really in the initiation of surrendering to that and choosing to show up and practice in that space. And it has been, just like anything, it is a practice to show up in that space. And the more that, we have deepened our practice and, incorporated, rituals that just really replenish our mutual cup as like our couple care, self-care, the more it just feels so natural and so right. And yeah, so I feel overjoyed is how I feel. Yeah.
I can feel it too.
Yeah.
Quite amazing to find a reflection of that depth of someone in this life. It's really, truly a gift.
It's such a gift. I mean, I am in such deep gratitude each and every day. Yeah, it is.
Wow. I can't wait to hear just how the whole ceremony goes and all of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's going to be quite magical.
Well, this has been just such a joy to get to know you better. I would love to hear if there's any offerings, anything coming up in your business and your life that you're excited about that you would like to share with the people listening.
Yeah. Wow. So, upcoming things, I am planning a retreat, a Rise to Radiance women's leadership retreat for later in 2018, well, around mid 2018. It's going to be in April, May 2018. So I'm going to be releasing those details shortly. I'm also nearing the final week of my Radiant Living Summer School online group immersion course. So that's just ending now. And that is looking like, it has just been such an amazing journey, but it's looking like we're going to do another immersion activation coming up at the end of 2017. So people can stay tuned and watch out for that. I'm taking a bit of time off to just really practice what I preach, and that self-care time, and that, open up this space for my union with my beloved in our honeymoon. But after that, I'm also going to be opening again to working one-on-one with my VIP clients. So those are the things that are on the horizon. And that VIP work is opening again starting in September.
Wow, wonderful.
Yeah.
So many blessings, so much happening. Do you have any closing words for us? Anything you'd like to leave our listeners with?
That life that you want, that quality of ease and benevolence and grace and radiance and abundance and beauty wants you just as much as you want it. And allowing yourself to really feel into that space, feel into that knowing, feel into that benevolence of the universe, truly desiring your highest expansion, your highest potential, your highest gifts, finding full expression. The more space that gives the universe to unfold. And it's always the empty space, always the empty void, always the creating the space and showing up, that balance of yin and yang, creating the void and showing up with presence, with devotion. That's the miracle recipe. Yeah.
I'm just bringing my hands to my heart center with so much gratitude that the universe magnetized us to meet today and have this conversation. It's so wonderful. Thank you to everyone listening, and thank you especially to Cait for being here, sharing your truth with us today. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to our show today. We would love to hear what you think. Take a moment to hop on over to iTunes and leave us a review. We'd be so grateful to receive it. Until next time, namaste.